There is no God. Religions are but superstition. There is no romantic love. This is an invention by hypocrites. Men and women are born equal and of equal value. All differences are coined by education. These ideas are translations and quotations from the philosophical work of Ninon de Lenclos, a French philosopher who lived in the 17th century. She was a free thinker, a free spirit, an educated lady, a lady of letters, and a philosopher who inspired many other thinkers on sociology, psychology, and gender sciences centuries after her decay. Ninon de Lenclos was born 1620 near Paris as daughter of a French nobleman. She died in 1705, and during her over 80-year-long life she met many famous philosophers and geniuses of literature, such as Jean de La Fontaine or Voltaire, and she was a muse to Voltaire too. And she was also acquainted with royalty, for example with the Queen Christina of Sweden, who also had connections with famous philosopher René Descartes, and with Madame de Maintenon, who was the second wife of King Louis XIV, Le Roi Soleil. Her philosophical work consists in letters, which was very common in her time and age. We know about many philosophical exchanges of letters, for example between Catherine the Great of Russia and Voltaire, and Ninon de Lenclos and Christina of Sweden, and many other people of royalties. Writing letters was a way for the intellectual of the 17th and 18th century to express his or her ideas to a congenial intellectual. So the exchange of ideas via letters was the typical way of this time and age to philosophize together. Ninon de Lenclos had a famous partner with whom she wrote many letters about the topic of so-called romantic love. His partner was the Count of Sévigné, the son of Madame de Sévigné, who was a courtesan at the court of the French King Louis XIV. And Ninon de Lenclos showed herself in these letters as a person who was absolutely independent in the way she thought about love and romantic love and marriage. The young Count of Sévigné was an adolescent man of maybe 19 or 20 years of age, and he was just about to enter the royal society at court and to learn about the social roles, while Ninon at this time was a learned and educated woman of about 40, and she considered herself being a mentor to this young man. As a mentor, or in her role as a mentor, she introduced him to the social roles, but also to the masks and veils of so-called romantic love. For example, she says, "There is no such thing as romantic love," and the young man protests and says, "Oh yes, but there is romantic love, and very much so, because he feels himself being madly in love with a young female courtesan." But Ninon de Lenclos does not share his opinion. On the contrary, she is of the opinion that so-called romantic love is a kind of play for actors on a stage. And to speak about so-called romantic love or falling in love or phrases such as the heart cannot help but falling in love, this is not adequate for a philosopher. She is of the opinion that so-called romantic love is but an illusion invented by hypocrites, and that all hypocrisy derives from a romantic, and this means unnatural, point of view towards the phenomenon of human love. For Ninon de Lenclos and many other free thinkers of her age, the so-called romanticism of love is but an hypocritical idea. Love, for Ninon, is a physical desire, and, she says in a famous quotation, love should be lived in the most natural way, like thirst, like hunger, like every other desire of the body, because for her and for her common free thinkers, for her colleagues in mind, there is no such thing as romanticism. Love is just a physical desire. But she is smart enough to understand that the concept of romanticism underlying social life, for example at court, underlying courtesy, underlying gallantry, treating a woman different because she is a woman, speaking in a very polite way, and acting like actors on a stage, as she says, this concept is, in her perception, most untrue, but it follows a certain function, because the romantic concept of love leads to a suppression of both men and women. For Ninon, romantic love coins the social and psychological development of men and women during their education. So she says one is not born as a woman or as a man, but one is coined by education and has to learn the role of a man in polite society, the role of a woman in polite society, such as an actor on a stage learns his or her role. For Ninon, it is crucial to understand that a person is not his or her role. There is no identification of the person and the role he or she plays.